Welcome back to our study in the book of Colossians. We're in chapter 3. We're learning an awful lot about the Christian lifestyle, how we do everything for the glory of God. And we talked in our last session about how husbands and wives live together and how children understand their Christian parents and are obedient to them because they're being obedient to God at the same time. So we're going to pick up there in verse 21. Fathers, do not exasperate your children, that they may not lose heart. Notice he addresses fathers, and he addresses fathers as a figurehead that children look up to. They look up to their mothers too, but their mother is a nurturing part of their life. Their father generally is more of a disciplinarian or an authority about right and wrong. And this is where Paul is talking about, fathers who just wear their kids out, and sometimes to the point of abuse. And Christian fathers can do this just like secular or non-Christian fathers can too. Because sometimes we set our expectations on our children very high, and we have to accept what God is doing at the time God is doing in it. I'm a father. I have 2 daughters. And my wife and I raised them in a Christian home the best we possibly knew how. Did we do that perfectly? No, but we did what we could, and we learned through the process. And there were times where it's very, very frustrating and as parents, but we still worked through it. And there were times where we probably exasperated our children one way or the other, but they lived through it, and we learned how to live more godly because we realized who our Father was. And God loves us in a very unique way. He loves us unconditionally. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that means that, we love them regardless of what they do. We love them unmeasurably as God can love through us. We don't put an end of the limit and say, okay, that's enough. I've done enough. And when we realize what that is, we can continue to love them even when we sometimes are very disappointed with them. And we can express that love in a way that, as some would call it, maybe tough love, but maybe a godly, biblically based love in helping to correct them. And it's very important that we understand that God loves us that way. He loves us unconditionally. He loves us unmeasurably. And He also loves us sacrificially. And this is how we're to love our children. And we don't do this perfectly like God does for us, but we should attempt to. And when we find ourselves being weak in that, especially as fathers, and I think mothers apply in this situation too, but especially as fathers who tend to be more of an authoritarian figure in the home if we're leading it spiritually correctly, then what we have to do is understand that we have to give up some of our life for our kids too. And that means that sometimes we do for them what we don't think is convenient or comfortable or what we even like to do. And that's why it's important that we love our children the way we should, so they can be obedient to us, and so that they understand that, even when we frustrate dad and mom, they still love us. And that's a continuation of that relationship because of our faith in Jesus Christ. We'll pick up there in our next session.